Adele Winsett, welcome back to the podcast. I pressed record before I was ready. It's one of those days. It's a Monday and it's just
It's fun with you. There's a lot going on energetically, so we're just going to roll with it.
that's what I've heard a lot of people say
Mm.
lately. Mercury retrograde is active or
Lots of
coming
solar flares.
active and all
Yeah,
this stuff. And yes, I don't know. Anyway, how are
we'll
you?
roll with it. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this.
Although you're sweating because Ireland and England is getting a heat wave.
God, just like, no, we're just going to go for a nice glowy sheen.
Yeah.
My perimenopausal body in 35-degree heat.
Well, we had an awesome conversation a few weeks ago, specifically on ADHD and hormones and perimenopause and the whole connection there. And during that conversation, I had mentioned I'd love to have a conversation around the nervous system because this is something else, shall we say, another
Mm,
symptom that we see of perimenopause,
mm,
and not only in perimenopause, but where women feel their nervous system is dysregulated or it's overactive. They're constantly feeling overwhelmed. They don't know if they're going left or right. The jitters, sleep disturbances, anxiety, the whole lot. And yes, we could continue with the conversation around like hormones and progesterone and stuff, but the
mm,
nervous system is a conversation that I don't think is being had enough with the whole
yeah,
perimenopause thing.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it runs the show, quite honestly.
Mhm. I'd mentioned to you
Mm.
actually, one of my friends messaged me just before I hopped on with you and wanted me to look at her blood work, but she said at the end of it, I'm just trying to relax and turn my nervous system off. I'm so easily overwhelmed. And
Mm,
she is one of these women who's very wired. She speaks very
mm,
fast.
mm,
She worries about everything, just
mm,
nonstop. And I keep saying to her, you need to stop that. You need to stop
mm,
overthinking everything. But
mm.
you said a lot of your community are also overthinkers. So how does this all connect?
Well, this is really interesting because obviously a large part of my community are ADHD women, or sort of type A women, very high, been highly functioning during their 20s and 30s, and then suddenly they're anxious or overwhelmed. And it's like, oh my gosh, why am I worrying about these things? So if you're looking at this through an ADHD lens, is one of the issues is we hyperthink, particularly for women. But typically ADHD is seen as hyperactive externally, a naughty little boy bouncing off of the walls. But girls aren't allowed to grow up and behave that way to be socially accepted. So we internalize a lot of that and have hyper thought, hyper speech. So there's these hyper focused thought loops that a lot of my women get stuck in, and the brain is racing all over the place. So that's one aspect. But I think women generally in this season of life, how many women say, I go to bed and it's like racing thoughts? I can't shut my mind off. I'm starting to feel anxious about things. I'm not an anxious person. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm not someone, I've always been able to manage a lot. Why am I not now? So I think this is such a big conversation. But it's definitely something I see a lot in my community. And I think it goes much deeper than sitting in a corner quietly trying to silence your mind with a joss stick. I think it's a lot deeper than that as to what is going on here.
Do you think most of what we would call as practitioners nervous system dysregulation stems from childhood or our teenage years? Or could someone be fine, 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 and then have something traumatic happen in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, and then that causes dysregulation?
And also something not traumatic, nothing traumatic's happened. They've just suddenly started feeling overwhelmed. Their bandwidth has reduced, their mental the load has just become untenable, and that's without anything. And I think they're usually the women that feel the most frightened because they haven't experienced anything like that, and it's like, why am I feeling this way? What is happening? And obviously a lot of my work is perimenopause focused, and I really believe that this is an adrenal function issue, not an issue with your ovaries. during perimenopause, the ovaries are doing what they're meant to do, right? They're slowing down ovulation, they're reducing initially that progesterone production and then eventually that estrogen production. That's meant to happen. There's nothing going wrong there with that. The challenge is what should happen is that our adrenals take over the estrogen and progesterone production at that time. And you have to remember, for me, I really strongly believe that we are living through an evolutionary mismatch whereby our nervous system and our hormone system has not evolved to catch up with our lifestyle. It's evolved so quickly. Our nervous system and our hormone system still thinks we're living in tribes, out in communities, picking berries on the prairie. That's what our nervous system is designed to function in. So when there's a threat, and that they release those stress hormones from the adrenals, the adrenaline and the cortisol, like a bear or a war or a famine, but then recover. But that recovery isn't happening. So what's happening, I believe, is that during our 20s and our 30s, where we go, 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 by the time we get to menopause, we're crash landing with very disrupted adrenal function. So therefore, as the ovaries are knocking on the door of the adrenal saying, "Hi, can you start to pick up the slack here?" Absolutely not. I'm barely staying on top of my optimal adrenal and cortisol. I haven't got the capacity to now take this on. And I think that's why we're crash landing into perimenopause.
Mm. Do you think part of why we're not recovering is because when we deal with whatever the stress is today, for example, and this is literally a prime example of most women, at least the women I speak to, is that they had to rush around this morning, get out the door, grab their coffee, get the kids off to camp, go to work, maybe get stuck in traffic on the way home, gotta have dinner real quick before we take the kids back out to sports and activities. Then maybe we got some bad news that I don't know, our credit card has been hacked or our disability claim has been declined or I know people whose permanent residency is getting rebuked right now. So we've got all this stress and then we get to recover for an hour or two before bed and then it goes, 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 goes again. Now what we're thinking of, oh, optimal recovery, maybe a weekend rest or something, is actually not. In the grand scheme of things, that's not enough time to recover because there's always the next thing, the next thing. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't feel well. I'm going to get a blood panel. The next thing, my doctor's gone on maternity leave. The next thing, I got a flat tire. The next thing, my oil has to, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, it really does. And I think this is such an important conversation because, yes, we go, oh, it's the weekend. Lots of women who are really overwhelmed will then drink wine or like that's not recovery, right? So where we should be moving, I believe, with the cyclical nature of nature. This 24-hour circadian rhythm. If you live somewhere seasonally where possible, moving with that, but we're just not. And if we use my granny's lifestyle as a comparison to exactly what you just said there, my granny, her life wasn't that long ago in terms of evolution to my life, but it is worlds apart. She woke up in the morning naturally, natural sunlight, walked her children to school. Food was much more nutritious, walked back. She moved most of the day where she would be doing things at home. She might have co regulated her nervous system with a neighbor and community and people familiar to her. She may have done some craft in the afternoon. She would have had a house phone that probably rang once a week. I will get off of this and have 20 messages that people expect me to respond to immediately, right? So look at that pace and demand, it's huge. So if a mother in the 80s, when I went to school, my mum had to sign a permission slip for me to go somewhere and stick a check in an envelope once every 6 months. I've got WhatsApp groups, I've got various apps for the school, I've got newsletters, I'm paying just to manage my kids' school information. The demand on our attention and load is completely untenable. And as a result, even if it looks like you're recovering, quite often we're not. So an example I use for this is our nervous system is moving through all these different states, right? And having a regulated nervous system doesn't mean you're calm all the time. I actually think that means you're a sociopath. The modern woman, if you are calm all the time, there's something wrong.
And
But
nothing
when, to
bothers you
me,
at all?
yeah,
Yeah.
fine. But when you have a healthy nervous system, you go into a state like fight or freeze or fawn or flight. We go into one of these states, but we come back to center. We can regulate ourselves to come back. We don't get stuck there for hours, days, weeks, months. Okay, that's when we have a problem. The nervous system and adrenals are not meant to stay stuck in these states, but because of our lifestyle, they are. So one of these states I mentioned is freeze state. Okay. Now, lots of women I see are in what I would call functional freeze. Inside, their nervous system has said, I can't run away from this, the flight response. I can't fight my way out of this, the fight response. So I'm just going to play dead. So inside, the nervous system is like, just pretend there's a bear here and don't move until you have to. So what happens is it looks like you're functioning, you're getting up, you're doing the washing, you're going to work, you're like cooking the
You're
dinner,
just going through
whatever
the
you
motions.
have to do, but there's no connection to it. And the minute you can shut down, for example, laying in front of Netflix with a glass of wine, that looks like you're relaxing. Someone would walk past and go, oh, she looks like she's relaxing. But inside, you are not relaxed. Okay. Your nervous system is playing dead until the next thing you have to do to function. So actually, if you were really relaxing, you might be really engaged with what you're watching and laughing and not looking at your phone and being present, and your body language is softening. When you're in freeze, you're staring at the TV, you're not really connecting with what's on, you're channel flicking, you're in your phone, down the portal, like there's no relaxation there. So we have to be really, really conscious, I think, about what we are labeling relaxation, what we are doing to really nourish our nervous system, because your nervous system dominates every other system in the body. If your nervous system is running the show, you're in trouble. And it's for most women, for me, trying to regulate hormones. It's why I trained to be a somatic coach as part of my hormone clinic, because I can take women's hormones so far that if their nervous system is stuck, they're going to come back.
Mhm.
So we have to prioritize nervous system regulation. And that can look like many different things.
So hormones and hormone therapy and even GABA and a few other things can fix the situation in the immediate, can help with your symptoms in the immediate.
Buffer.
But when we're looking at this long term, like I can't live like this forever, I need to
No.
fix myself, that's where we're looking at the other modalities and being
Mm.
really disciplined and making sure we're doing them as well. And just
Mm.
want to kind of step back to two things. So the first is
Mm.
you mentioned like women when they get their downtime at the weekend and they have a glass of wine or Netflix. But what, like, I think women, and I want to say this because I think you're kidding yourselves, and I've done it too, and I'm sure you have, is you'll watch a movie, you'll have a glass of wine, but then you end up staying later. And then the
Mm.
next day you still get up and you push and go. So then you think you've rested, but now you've caused more dysregulation. And it's just like I think having structure and routines is very important for women. But what I
Absolutely.
wanted to say was to help women understand when we talk about the nervous system, we're talking about that connection from your adrenals to your brain that controls how you respond to different
Absolutely.
situations and how resilient you are. But this primarily, what we're saying, starts at the adrenal glands. If your
Yeah.
adrenal glands have been hit with a hammer for so many times, there's only so much they'll take. And that's
Mm.
where the nervous system starts to become dysregulated or not function properly. Am I correct?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I love that. I can imagine so many women are probably thinking, yeah, my adrenals feel like they've had a claw hammer taken to them for decades. And then we expect them to like pick up and produce all these wonderful hormones for us when our ovaries shut down. They just can't do it. And the stress hormones are at the top of the hormone hierarchy with how the body will resource, right? So you still in a very complex way, to make sure that those stress hormones don't run out, because you won't live very long without them. We have to have them. So the body prioritizes resources there. So when we're talking, for me, when I'm talking about how are you nourishing your nervous system, I'm looking at, like you said, what is your circadian rhythm? Do you go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every night? Do you get sky in your eyes before screens in your eyes? Are you eating blood sugar regulating diet with high proteins? These things that people don't consider are related to nervous system. But if you're not doing those things, your body's scared. Your body's like, wait a minute, there's something not right here. And you're starting to lose your quota, if you like, of stress hormones on things that you don't need to. If you can optimize your circadian rhythm, you can regulate your blood sugar. I think that is the best way to make those adrenals feel safe, right?
Mm,
So then you've got more of a reserve. Another one for women, boundaries. No one's coming to save you. Okay, no one. Like the more you give, the more people will take. And if you're depleted and you think, "Oh, there's nothing I can do. This is my situation. I have to do this for my children. I have children with complex needs. I've got a husband that I have to do all of these things." But we have to take control of it because you will crash and burn. That's it.
mm,
If things continue as they are now, that is what is going to happen. So if we don't take control of it and make other people around us feel a bit uncomfortable, and those people who feel uncomfortable are the ones who are probably taking most from you for free, when we don't start to push back and say, I literally don't have the capacity for this, and that's one of the things I love about perimenopause is women, as that estrogen, is shipping out and that progesterone is shipping out, there's much more capacity to go, no, I'm not
not a
doing that
chance.
anymore. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be in a one-way relationship. Have you got that friend that is always you organizing things, always you staying in touch? Stop it. See what happens. Start to become a lot more discerning about the fucks that you give,
Mm.
because that is the only way you're going to store your stress hormones and look after them is by taking control of it. And like I say, it doesn't have to be a yoga retreat. I love a yoga retreat, but you've got to start looking at your day-to-day habits and patterns that are depleting you and making your nervous system a lot more vulnerable to the world that we live in. The world's not going to change. We're in this world unless you're going to go and live in a cave. Wonderful if you want to do that, but that's not most people's realities. We have to exist in this way. So for me, there's something about optimizing your daily routine as much as feasibly possible to keep your body feeling safe.
You have to. Nobody likes to hear this, but you
No.
have to become disciplined. You
Mm,
have to. For this to work, you have to be disciplining yourself on what you
mm,
are and are not doing. And you said if the key word there, if this is all women take away from this conversation today, is you have to make your body feel safe. Whatever way you do that, you have to make your body feel safe. This is a big reason why I'm a huge advocate. Well, not huge, but I implement carbs with my clients. I'm not restricting carbs when carbs
mm,
are essential for the nervous system. And I
yeah,
already have women with central nervous system dysregulation. Why would I tell you to do keto or carnivore? That doesn't
yeah,
make sense.
absolutely. Absolutely. But
But
women are doing this. They've been so brutal to their bodies. Calorie restriction, over exercising, removing major food groups. I'm not a fan of aggressive fasting for women. All of these things are stressing your body out when it's already stressed.
when you're
Stop.
already stressed, yeah. So I have a
Yeah.
woman that is for years and years, she will message me and ask for help. And she's very stressed, very high adrenaline, hormone dysregulation, is not sleeping well. And I did a post in one of my groups the other day, and she said, "Yeah, I'm doing carnivore now." And I just said, "Well, what about your carbs for your adrenals and your thyroid? Like, I already know you're
Mm,
stressed. Why are you doing this? This is going to bite you in the ass," as they say.
mm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, you there's only so
So
much.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think women are completely overwhelmed with what they should be doing because there's so many people that this is something, and again, I'm sure that you see it too. And this has been fairly new. I would say it's been a new 12 to 18 month thing that I'm seeing in clinic is that women are coming in completely overwhelmed with information that they don't understand. Okay, because they're following people desperately seeking solutions. Of course, you would, doing all the stuff, paying thousands for functional tests they don't understand or what they mean. So they come and they're like, boom, here you go. And dump all of this information about their genetics. We were never meant to be our own geneticist, our own biochemist, our own endocrinologist. We were never meant to. And this for me is part of a bigger conversation about the patriarchal, misogynistic medical system that doesn't understand our bodies. So of course women have had to seek solutions. However, it's now contributing to the symptoms and the unwellness or dis-ease in their bodies and symptoms, because they're now stressing their nervous system with, should I be doing this? Should I do this? What's this? So when they come to me, I literally go, great. We know that you've got a snip on your MTHFR gene. We know you've got this going on. I'm just going to pop this here, and we're just going to take a minute to get you hydrated, to get you eating, to get you sleeping, and to get you breathing. Let's focus on that first, and then let's optimize. Let's use this data in a really managed, steady way rather than, right, we're going to go in. The last thing a woman with an overwhelmed nervous system need is to go on a histamine intolerant diet or to do gut elimination or to start working on liver methylation pathways. So, okay, let's just take a minute. That data's great. But I think there's so much that can be done when we stabilize the body. The body wants to rebalance itself. The body wants to come back. But when it doesn't feel safe, the nervous system will dominate and these things will go out. The gut won't work properly. The thyroid won't work properly. You won't ovulate properly because the body thinks you're about to be eaten by a bear. And it's just modern living.
I had this conversation with a new client this morning. It was our first call, and she's like, by the way, just to let you know, this. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. So she got a lot of histamine issues, a lot of sinus congestion, nasal drip, the whole lot. And she's like, I just want to let you know, is there anything we can do? I'm like, you know what? Let's just leave this for a bit. Let's just focus on the nutrition and the sleep first and see what your body wants to
Yeah.
do itself. And we'll be
Great.
surprised. I said, if it gets really bad, extremely bad, take an antihistamine. But otherwise, I
Yeah.
don't want to bring in any supplements or anything right now because I just want to adjust everything else and let's see what your body does. Because I say to women all the time, especially as it relates to very heavy periods and bleeding, as much as they're an inconvenience and horrible, your body's not trying to hurt you. These symptoms are a sign that your body's trying to keep you alive. But
Yeah.
why does your body feel the need to keep you alive? What is this danger? Which is what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. You know, and I think that's so much of it, isn't it, that we start to, I see this a lot, get really frustrated with our body when it's given us a symptom. But that symptom usually is a communication. You know, a horrible period where there's no structural cause is your body telling you something's out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
not
let's get
normal.
curious. Yeah. Let's get curious. You're cramping, you've got awful PMT. That's not normal.
Hmm.
Let's get curious with what that means.
And let's not just take your uterus out. Let's see what's causing this.
That out, you know, let's just whip your uterus out. You don't need that. It's fine. Off you pop. You know, it's crazy. It's barbaric. It's so barbaric that that is where we go to, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, well, because people are going to listen to this and they know I'm quite opinionated. I'm going to add this in. One of the most common reasons that I see for these heavy menstrual bleeds is overconsumption of alcohol. It just
Yeah.
is. It just like that's
Yeah.
like the top thing.
I honestly think, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever honest with me on their consultation about how much they really drink
Oh,
because
I
I know
do.
it's a
I've
lot.
had women tell
Yeah.
me they have a bottle of wine every night.
Yeah. Yeah. In my 20s, like I've been there, coming back, corporate job. I was like, oh, get home, cold glass of Pinot, fag. I was like, right, you know, that was my switch off, right? But when what women aren't realizing is we're dependent, we've got mummy wine culture. You know, you can't find women's birthday cards that don't have alcohol on them. We sort of glamorize this whole thing. And now women are feeling shame around their drinking, but there's nothing to replace it with. They need something, right? And that's the easy thing because then there's no capacity. Lots of women I know, for example, have a great morning routine,
Mm.
but they don't have the same evening routine because by the time it gets into the day, they're just done. They're like, forget about it. There's nothing left in the tank. So the easy thing to quieten the brain or to give you a bit of dopamine is a glass of wine, right? So I get
Or
it.
so
I
you
really, really
think.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and like you say, the body is then prioritizing clearing your alcohol and not your estrogens. So you're becoming estrogen dominant.
Plus, alcohol stops you getting into REM sleep. Where REM sleep
Yeah,
is where we do a
yeah,
lot of our emotional processing. Like it's just
yeah,
a cycle. And I drink wine once in a while. I prefer
yeah.
Prosecco, but I do drink wine, so I'm not
Mm,
against it. I'm not one of these
no.
practitioners like you should have none. I think
Yeah,
balance is important. But what morning routines are easy for most women because we've always had a morning routine, whether or not it was doing our makeup or getting the kids up.
yeah,
We've always had from teenagers some sort of
yeah.
routine. The evening routine is harder, but it is something I've always implemented with my clients. Like they get a strict step-by-step evening routine, and nearly everyone tries to push back on it because that's their me time. The only ones that
Mm,
really don't are older women who don't have kids or anything anymore.
yeah.
They're like, yeah, I can do
It's
whatever.
hard.
But then once I push them, I'm like, come on, just do it. And I encourage them to do it. And it usually involves like read a book, have a cup of tea. So
Yeah,
it's not Netflix and wine, it's book
yeah.
and tea. And then they do it, and then they do it. And then you've no idea how many times I've gotten thanks
Mm,
for, oh my God, Shemaine, I used to love reading. You've reintroduced my love of books. And then
mm,
it becomes so habitual and they feel good and they sleep better. And now I don't have to argue with them anymore because they just do it. But it's that initial, like, trust me, this will
yeah.
work. That's
Mm.
the hard part.
That's really interesting what you said there as a practitioner is I see this with my women that I've actually now started to say, if you're gonna work with me, you've trusted me for a reason. People follow you, they don't tend to just come to you on one off. People know you now as a practitioner before they come to work with you, usually. That's what I'm finding. And there's a reason you've chosen to work with me. So whilst we're doing this, I don't want you in the forums, out there like stop with the searching for solutions. Trust me as your practitioner during this time. You're paying for my knowledge, for my experience. The same with you, right? There's that payment. So you don't have to worry about it. But this is what I'm going to suggest that you do. But it's hard because it's lifestyle change. A lot of things that we recommend are simple, but they're not always easy. Okay, they're not, people come, I think, expecting really complex protocols. And there's place for those, right? In the right place in the right time. But that is not when your nervous system is overloaded. That
Mhm.
is not what you need. You need to draw everything back, clear the canvas, get some simplicity and structure around the flow of your day, not being rigid, not creating that other stress, but just taking the decision making out of every day. And for my women, I'm looking at their capacity. What is this woman's nervous system capacity right now? Because, yes, I would love all of my women to get up and have 50,000 eggs and smoked salmon and kale and a spirulina smoothie with
Caviar.
caffeine. Like, I would love that, right? But the reality is, most women don't have that. So I would rather they have a bottle of kefir that they grab and go to get something in them rather than the coffee and a croissant at 11 o'clock. So it's like, what is your current capacity? And let's build on it. Okay. So once you've got your body used to having that, what's the next thing that we introduce? And we up level as your capacity and bandwidth. Your nervous system feels safer because you're starting to put some nourishment in it at a consistent time. It starts to know this is the pattern, it's feeling safe. So, I think it's just a different way of looking at it outside of like, we need to meditate or, what women are usually told to do. I'm not saying I love nervous system practices, particularly somatic work. I think it's really important that we have that and women are checking in, how do I actually feel right now? Because so many women don't do that. Um, but it's bigger than that. For me, nervous system stabilization, blood sugar regulation, and of course, my best friend, progesterone. They're my three core, like, what's happening here.
Mm. Well, I think this goes hand in hand with that conversation of also trying to do too much at once. Like when people hire me, I'm sure it's the same for you. They're like, okay, you've told me what to do with my nutrition, blah, 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 but what should I do about exercise? And I'm like, nothing. You don't do
Yeah.
anything. I would like you
Yeah.
to try go for a walk every day. But otherwise, I don't want you doing anything else. I want to get this nutrition and sleep work in. And then we're going to walk. And
Mm.
then we're going to progress from there. But everybody wants to do everything all at once. And man, if I've learned the hard way this year, it's just not
No.
possible to do it all. And definitely as you get older, you are not as resilient as you were in your 20s, early 30s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's really important because my sense is, and I think I've been there before as I look back on my own health journey, and I've always been a feel good junkie. If I started, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I think we don't feel like we're doing enough unless we've got a massive to-do list for our whole day that could be ticked off. I've had lists like that on my fridge in the past. Like,
I
right, if I just
love
stick
a
to
good
this
list.
list and do everything on this list, I'm going to be really healthy. I'm also going to be really stressed out because I've got to do all the things on
And then
top.
I'm going
And
to
that's
feel
really overwhelming.
guilty. I'm going to feel guilty if I don't do everything on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly as you've said there, I think a lot of women, I just say, right, this is what we're going to do. They're like, okay, well, what else? No, this is it.
Mhm.
And this is going to be much more powerful than me loading on 30,000 things. And when I started as a practitioner, that's what I did. I mean, my poor clients, I just wanted to give them everything that I knew, like, take this, take, they're going to do this. I mean, they must have left just completely overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh. Now it's like, no, we're going to draw it back. What feels good? Be present with pleasure. That's how women meditate. A lot of the meditation teachings come from celibate male monks, right? There's beauty in that practice, but it doesn't really take in the female experience. I believe women meditate by being really present with pleasure. Something you're already doing. How do you activate your senses with it? Instead of making yourself a hot drink that just sits on the side and go cold, take 5 minutes. Everyone can do 5 minutes. I refuse to believe there is any woman who cannot take 5 minutes a day for herself. Just sit with that drink. Don't do anything. Give yourself permission to sit and enjoy your drink. Smell it, feel it, sense it, taste it, enjoy it.
Mhm.
And it's like we've forgotten the art of just enjoying what we're doing. Because if I just get this done, if I just get this done, then I can have fun. If I just get this done, if I can, then I can relax. But what happens if you turn that on its head? What if you have the fun first and you relax first and then come back to it? You'll bring a different energy to the to-do list, right?
I think there's something to be said there. Now, you've just made me think of something. Women very much, pleasure is our love hormone. It is our oxytocin. And when we talk
Listen,
about hormones, that's one hormone we don't talk about enough. Like
no,
women very much need the hugs, the cuddles, that
yeah,
post-sex cuddling. Men roll over, go
yeah,
to sleep, but women, we
yeah,
need, what is it?
yeah.
I can't remember the doctor, but I heard some doctors saying like women need 2 minutes. You need 2 minutes to hug your woman and cuddle her and just connect with her after orgasm. And
Mm,
women do orgasm longer than men. I don't
mm,
know if most women know that, but that comes back to there is something here to this pleasure thing, and maybe God designed us that we feel safer, we feel more loved, we feel more at
mm,
ease and calmer
mm,
when we have a lot more exposure to pleasure. I do think
mm.
women should have more orgasms, but women get really uncomfortable when I say that. When I say you need to master, I hope YouTube doesn't take this down, but I'll tell women you need to pleasure yourself more. And women are
Yeah.
like shocked, like coy, like, oh my God. I'm like, hold on, you've got like 2 or 3 kids. Why are you getting embarrassed? Like,
Do you think women are the only creatures who have this organ purely for pleasure? Your clitoris is purely for pleasure. That is it. And you're like, oh, but I don't do that. Like, go have an orgasm. Like, go into it. They're like, it's like, what? Massage your breast. That is going to produce so much oxytocin. If you're interested in this, it's Dr. I can't pronounce his surname. Terry he wrote a book called Passion, Sex, and Long Life, and it's all about oxytocin. Really, really good book. I can't remember how to pronounce the surname, so I'm not going to do it the injustice saying here. But if you're interested in that, it's a really great book.
you can send me the name and I'll pop it in the description. But
Great.
I think I've made loads of videos on this, and women in their 40s, 50s get embarrassed when you say, you need more orgasms. Like
Yeah.
maybe this is the secret sauce to recovering the nervous system. Maybe it is because
Mm.
we all know
Oh,
how calm and relaxed we feel after a good orgasm. But anyway,
yeah.
back to the
There's so much
nervous.
shame and taboo,
But
you
wait, yeah,
know?
women just get embarrassed. Like it's interesting
Mm.
to me, but maybe it's because of podcasts and talking so much that I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with
Yeah.
talking. But regardless, so what are some of the symptoms just to help people kind of narrow this down? Because I know everybody's saying, yeah, I've got nervous system dysregulation now. We've all got everything. You Google it and you have got everything. What are some of the most common symptoms you're seeing in women that do have a dysregulated nervous system?
Really interesting to me because I think it's when we're talking about dysregulated nervous system, it's such we kind of says that like, oh, I'm feeling really dysregulated. We kind of know what that means, but when you start to break it down, when I'm looking at this clinically, I want to know, what's driving this. And for me, because of my focus on hormones, I'm always going to bring that back to um whether what's happening with the hormones. So is there adrenaline dominance? So Dr. Platt's work, which I know you speak a lot about, is HPA axis dysfunction, which used to be called adrenal fatigue, which is like the flip side of adrenaline dominance. We've had adrenaline dominance and then we go into exhaustion, that disruption there. Or is circadian rhythm dysfunction? Because that's when people are talking about dysregulation. It can be all of those things
Mhm.
when we're talking about our daily symptoms and experiences. So that could be not sleeping properly, waking up feeling like you're staple gun to the bed, relying on caffeine and sugar in terms of your craving, having that afternoon energy crash, not having any resilience in being able to manage any stress in your life, um, becoming very anxious at things that I see this a lot with my women. Is we used to be the women who could spin all the plates in the air. We'd jump on a train to Paris and not think twice about it. And now you're like worrying about whether there's going to be a car parking space when you go out for dinner later. Like this difference, you're seeing these shifts in your nervous system. So that's what I want to get curious with when I'm looking at somebody. But we've also, as I said, got these different states of dysregulation that we can go in. And it's not because we want to avoid never going into them. Our nervous system is designed to go into them. So this is the flight, the flight, the flight, the fight, the freeze, the fawn. This is what's happening there. But we need to bring it back in and have that awareness, like, oh, I'm conscious that this is what I'm doing. So let's talk about fawn, for example. So many women do this and don't even realize it's a nervous system response. How many times do women walk in a room where they're not feeling uncomfortable, they're not feeling comfortable, and their voice goes up like, where it goes up and we're all smiley and we're all nice. That's a dysregulated nervous system. It looks like we're being a really nice girl, but actually it's a survival strategy. Our nervous
The
system doesn't feel
fake
safe.
it survival. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called fawning. If I'm really nice to these people, they won't throw me out the pack. And that's what you have to remember. Your nervous system has been evolved to keep you in a tribe. I love evolutionary theory, so it's always looking to make you survive and keep you safe. So if you're not feeling safe walking into a room full of people, that's probably quite normal, right? So you're going to switch into that state of fawning to survive. But then people kind of go, gosh, I'm so tired. That was so exhausting. I didn't really do anything. Your nervous system has probably been on all day trying to make sure that you survive the situation. We might not recognize it as that. So for me, there's something about getting really connected with your body. And when it feels regulated, noticing that. For me, I've sat in my hammock in my garden. It's like, oh, feel the sun on my skin. I'm in the garden. I've got no demands on my time. I might read a book. I might not. My nervous system is so at peace in that. But then I've got to ramp it up. I've got to go and do the school run. I've got to get the dog. I've got to do that. Then I'm like filming in the evening or, whatever it is. Then I go back up. But I know I will come out of this and I feel like higher, right? I've got like, I can feel my energy's going, but that's not because I'm dysregulated, but the body symptoms are very similar as being excited or scared, right? So then it's like, okay, how do I regulate myself back down? So I make sure I go to sleep, for example. coming to your evening routine. Okay, what's the evening routine? Okay, I recognize I've been feeling stressful. I want to bring myself back down so I get a good night's sleep.
Mhm.
So tying back to what we were saying at the beginning, it's not about having this weekend where we recover. Yes, that's important, but it's your day-to-day rhythm. Where are you peak energy? Where are you gentler energy? That's how women, I think, survive and prevent burning out, is not waiting for the holiday. I'm going to work a million miles an hour and then I'm going to crash. It has to be built into your daily rhythm as much as is humanly possible.
Mhm. So what do you say to women then who they're just so overstimulated, they're overwhelmed, their nervous system is dysregulated, they've pretty much got nothing left in the tank, and they're seeing it with the anxiety, the nervousness, the bloating, the sleep issues, they're just
Mm.
dysregulated. And then you tell them, you can't go to the gym. I want you to eat some more carbs. You need to do some self-care this evening. And they'll do that for a day or two, but then they'll come back and they start saying now they feel really guilty. They feel bad. They feel like they're getting fat. They're pushing back on it. What would you say to someone like that?
I'm a very opinionated, blunt practitioner. Okay. Like, I'm not going to fluff something up for somebody. Everything I suggest is an invitation. That's it. It's an invitation. I can't jump through a screen to a client and change their life for them. It's about, if you want to continue along this path, you're going to crash, whether that's your body getting something, an imbalance or a disease, or like you just crash. Something is going to happen, or whether it's the creeping in of whispers of symptoms that become screams. Does pre-metabolic disease, does that start to creep in? You go from being hyperglycemic to now you're diabetic. We've gone from like your thyroid being a bit stressed, and now you've got hypothyroidism. Like, where do you want to go with this? It's a choice, because for me, if I had a woman who was like that with how our clinic works, I would probably go to progesterone first. Because for most women that I see, that is the quickest win. Low hanging fruit, it calms their nervous system. They start getting a better night's sleep, capacity to make change increases, right? So often, if I have a woman who is just like, I keep trying to make this change, it's not happening, I would probably encourage them to go and work with a coach or do some deeper, more therapeutic work to ask why you want to stay stuck in this and can't bring about that change. Because I think sometimes being busy protects us from having to look at other aspects.
Mhm. Mhm. So recently, since the start of the year, I've been not like hugely vocal, but I've been vocal in sharing a journey I've been going through of grief and loss. And it's been very, very challenging. And a few people had asked me to share my experience because they wanted to know what I was doing to get through it. And it's turned out to be longer than I thought it would be. But in the beginning of like the initial grief stage, my nervous system was, I don't even know if there's a word to describe it. It was insane. I was just, you know, if you put your foot down on the gas and you're just going, and let's say your brakes don't work and you cannot stop, that's what I was like. And I was so overstimulated. I could not control my thoughts. I couldn't control my anxiety, my adrenal response. Progesterone and GABA and methylene blue helped me a lot. But I didn't have anything in the tank. I had the jitters. I kept shaking. And whenever I get the jitters, it's normally from overtraining. And I know I've overdid it with my nervous system. So that was a big thing. And I struggled to write or anyway, it was bad. I lost my appetite. It was just like I couldn't think straight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. And I'm sharing this because I'm sure someone else is going to experience this. But one thing then, as I've continued through this kind of journey, that I learned to do was to give myself a lot more grace. I never thought I was someone who was hard on myself until I started recognizing a few of my traits. I am like a high achiever. I'm that type A personality, and I'm a practitioner who practices what she preaches. So I never thought, I just thought, no, I just do this. This is what I do. But then I started to recognize I was being a bit hard on myself for not accomplishing everything on the list, or for not getting to the gym, because there was some days I was so exhausted from my nervous system and anxiety just taking over. I had no energy. I was nauseous. I was just going back to bed in the middle of the day, wasn't going to the gym, and I had to learn, like, Shemaine, this is what your body needs right now. You need to be kinder. Like, it's been such a huge transition for me, because I almost looked at my body over the years like I'm a machine. I can keep going and going, like I'm a high performer. And then all of a sudden to step back and be like, no, you're only human, and this is something you've never experienced before. And you need to be kinder, and you don't need to accomplish everything at once. And that list can wait a few weeks. Like, so this is something I think a lot of women struggle with, is giving themselves grace. If you do not accomplish
Compassion.
all of this stuff, it's okay. You're only human. You don't have to do everything. And we need to be kinder, because women, we're softer than people recognize we are, I think, especially now with the kind of focus on gym rats and high performing athletes like female CrossFitters and F45. Yeah, we can do that, but maybe we weren't designed to do that. Maybe we actually are super soft, and this is part of our struggle with our environment now. But anyway, so the grace thing I think is important, because I think it goes hand in hand with what we were saying before this about guilt, that if you can learn to give yourself grace, then there's less guilt about slowing down and resting and skipping the gym and not accomplishing filling the dishwasher or whatever it was.
So it comes back to that the hyper thoughts is it's like the brain, right? If I just empty the dishwasher, then I can relax, because women are sitting down and they can't relax because, excuse me, oh, sorry.
Bless you.
They can't relax because they're thinking about emptying the dishwasher, because we've been taught, oh no, 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 it's got to be done, it's got to be done, got to be done. And then there's no capacity to do anything kind for yourself or nourishing for yourself because you're done. You're absolutely exhausted. And we have not, how many women grew up watching women rest around them? How none. And yet we're supposed to, if we were living with our cycle and our own cyclical nature, we would be resting in that luteal phase and during our bleed. We wouldn't be going to a HIIT class and pushing and powering through our body. We can't, we're just exhausted. I think women are just exhausted.
I think so. And even like, I think this whole equality conversation is a conversation that shouldn't be over, because now I'm starting to see the opposite happen, that maybe it is causing more damage than we initially thought it would. Like women in MMA, what the hell are they doing to their bodies? Like,
There's- yeah, I think there's something around how when there was I know we're going off a little bit, but I think it's relevant. When there was the feminist movement, ultimately power comes in the form of money in our culture, right? And women didn't have power because they didn't have access to money. So the feminist movement changed that to bring more of an equality to access of power, aka money. But the problem is with that, the rest of the load stayed with women. We didn't go, right, we're going to give women choice around work now. And so you're going to have a financial load and a workload, but you're also going to keep all of the domestic load, all of the invisible load, all of the emotional load, all of the mental load. And men are just going to keep doing what they always did, right? So that I think has been a massive issue around when we're talking about gender equality. There is a long way to go before true fairness. And that's not, I truly believe there are things that women's nervous systems and brains are designed to do within a community, and men's. I believe that. I think that's how we're designed. But at the moment, the load is unbalanced and it is burning women out and exhausting them through having that load placed upon them. So I think,
unrealistic.
I think it's
Yeah.
going to change. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up now, but before we do, I think it's fitting that we wrap up with a conversation around adaptogens because there's so much talk
Yeah.
around adaptogens. What is your opinion on adaptogens in relation to like recovering the nervous system or healing?
For me, supplements are not my first go-to for things. I think it's something that's very unique to the individual. I've personally never particularly got on with them in my own body. I tend to have more of an adverse reaction to them, I think, than the one intended. So they're not something that I have a really strong opinion on, if I'm honest. I think if it's something that you want to go down and see if it helps, then that's fine for them, but it's not something that I would be particularly looking at
Mhm.
clinically.
I see a lot of practitioners and like loads of talk around ashwagandha. Like, take ashwagandha, it'll
Yeah.
fix everything, it'll fix your bank account. Um, but most
No.
women that, and maybe this was the case with you, most women that I speak to that have tried ashwagandha, they end up having awful pushback, like awful symptoms, because ashwagandha stimulates the estrogen receptors. It's estrogenic.
Horrible on ashwagandha.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's not something I recommend, but there's a few I like. There's really only two that I kind of gravitate towards, and that would be Tulsi or Holy Basil and
Yeah.
Reishi mushroom. Like those would be the two
Yeah.
I
Nice.
go to. And I don't take them in pills. Like I don't recommend them in
Yeah.
pills. I use them in teas or elixirs. But
Nice.
I that's kind of like, I'm sure you get them too, all the messages. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? This doctor
Yeah, I
said this
know.
is great and this and
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's so much more you can do, you know? I think
yeah.
there's so much more that can be done. That maybe doesn't need to go in heavy with supplements. Every woman I see has got the supplement cupboard. And I like supplements, but I think we're like, oh, it's almost replaced the pharmaceutical industry. Oh, let's do this and everything will be okay. And I come back time and again. Well, let's sort your circadian rhythm out. Let's get you hydrated and let's get you eating. And then let's see where you are.
I call it the supplement graveyard. So when I do consultations, I am specific. What supplements are you actually taking every
Taking.
day? And then they
Yeah,
go, oh, well, every day, nothing. Okay, great. The end.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, Adele, leave us with a nugget of gold on what would, if women are dysregulated, overwhelmed, just feeling like they can't do this anymore. I don't feel like myself. What's one thing they should focus on to start recovering?
Breathe. That would be my first thing. Just breathe. You can do it anywhere, anytime. It's available to everybody. There is absolutely no excuse to not find 1 minute in your day to do gentle, deep belly breathing.
Mm.
Let's start there. But you're absolutely, there's nothing to do. I don't have more capacity. Forget your supplements, forget the diet, forget all of those things. Just breathe. Because the minute you do some proper breathing, your nervous system goes, oh, we're safe.
Mhm.
And it's available to everybody. There is no excuses not to breathe properly.
Yeah, deep nasal breaths in and
Yeah,
out. Yeah, because
yeah,
otherwise we're just doing that shallow and we don't even recognize we're doing it.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Okay, Adele, lovely to see you again. I hope it cools
Pleasure.
down for you there.
So do I. I'm not going to be sleeping for a while.
I hope you do sleep.
So
Anyway.
do I. Cuddle bears. Insomnia is the devil, and it does not need to be heat induced.
Well, thank you for your time today. A great chat as
Pleasure. Thanks
always.
for having me.
I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye.